Alright, my friends, welcome. So here's another example. We've been talking about conditional selection, which is also called branching. We took a look at how Scratch has two of these blocks in the previous lesson or the episode of the if then else blocks in Scratch, and then we talked about in Python how we have if, the if else, the if else blocks. We have three options within Python, and so we spent time taking a look. You can access the link here in the previous video of how to explore that, how to make this work on both. And I told you we're going to have an additional example, and that's what we're going to do here in this particular episode. And so I'm going to work opposite this time. Normally in these lessons, I have been starting with Scratch and then converting that over into Python. And I want to do the reverse because I think as we continue to get into this groove of coding, what I find is that the more I do coding in Python, it's almost easier for me to construct the code in Python and then convert into Scratch versus let me build in Scratch and then try to figure out what this looks like in Python. Um, in some of the beginner lessons, maybe that's not the case, but the more you get into this, I find that it works much easier and better. It's just my way my brain works. So we're gonna create a program. I'm gonna call it Simple Calculator. We're just gonna do a program that's gonna allow us to add, subtract, multiply, and divide two numbers. We're not gonna get in square roots and all those goofy things. You could, but we're not. For the sake of this video, we're not going to. And so what we want to do is we need two numbers, correct? So we need to get two numbers from the user. And so I'm going to call this number, actually, you know what, let's just keep it simple. We're going to go A, our variable here, right, is equal to an integer of the input. And we've talked about this before, how we have to convert our numbers into integers so we can do some math calculations. A, what is your first number that you would like to use? I'm going to leave a space there. Okay. And I'm going to go ahead and let's make sure that this looks, there we go. What is your first number that you would like to use? All right. And then we're going to follow this up with the exact same thing here, but we're going to call it B. All right. And I'm just going to copy all this. And we'll just make this the second number. So copy, what is your second number that you would like to use? All right, so this is then going to get us set up, and we're going to need one more variable, and we're going to call this, I'm just going to call it the math. Okay, so what is it that we want to do with this? We want them to be able to choose, right? So we're going to input here, and let's just ask them, would you like to add, subtract, multiply, or divide? There we go. And I'm going to put a space here so we have a little bit of space. So then people are going to add what they want to do here. So we've got three variables up top here for our code in this particular one. All right, so now we're going to get into these branching commands that we talked about. So if math, and remember we talked about in Python we have to have two equal signs because one equal, as we see here, is allowing us to declare the value of a variable. So we have to have two equal signs in Python. Okay, if it equals add, all right, what do we want it to do? Okay, we need to be able to put together a command here. Okay, so we need to make sure what is it we want to do. So if we add, what is it that we want to have happen? We're just going to call this C. All right, we're going to keep C just for everything, just to make life easier, because we've had A and B for our first number, second number. C will just be our total here. It's going to equal A plus B. next, else if, what if math is equal, and they type in subtraction. All right, we want C to equal what? You guessed it, A minus B. Else if, you see what we're doing here, we're just running through the 4 calculations, right? If it's equal, and they type in MUL for multiplication, get those colons in there. C is going to equal A times B. Else if math is equal to division, C is going to equal A divided by B. And then we just got to have one more command in here, right? So these, we got add, subtract, multiply, divide, but we just need one more. Else, C is going to equal error. Meaning that if we don't get one of those commands, they spell something wrong, they type in a different word or letter, it's just going to tell them that they didn't follow the actual command here. Okay, so we're going to say then your answer equals. All right, I'm gonna put a little space here. We're going to do that, a comma, and we're going to add in C. All right, so there is our code. Pretty straightforward. Number 1, number 2, math is going to be our variable for our input block, add, subtract, multiply, divide, in case they kick something wrong, and then the answer. So if we run this, we should, let's just see if I did all this correctly here. What did I not do? Oh, see there? It's good. I forgot my quotes here. All right. Let's try this again. All right, so let's go 2. Let's go 5. And if we add, our answer is 7. If we run this again, let's just do 2 and 5 again. Subtract. We got our negative number, so that worked. We'll run it again here. 2, 5, multiply. We got 10. And then finally, if we run division, 0.4, and then just so you can see the error here, if we type in anything that isn't one of these 4 options here, so if I type in monkey, we should get error. All right, so there it is. It's a simple math equation. I mean, this is the code itself right here. All right, so now what does this look like in Scratch? That becomes the question, right? So what we're going to do here in Scratch, I actually have not created this, so this will be interesting. All right. Normally, if I was in Scratch, I would be creating a bunch of different sprites, and we'd have things that we could click and calculate and make it more interactive. But I want to, for the sake of this demo, keep this the same. I want to have code that looks just like what we wrote in Python for this time being. So to do that, let's take a look here. We're going to do when this is clicked, all right? And then we're going to ask. We've used this before, all right, in our sensing. We're going to say, what is your first number? And then we are going to do this. We're going to make a variable first number. And we're going to set first number to this answer. Okay, so that's going to be the input of what we just did over here, basically the A. Okay. Actually, you know what? Let's redesign this here. I'm going to call this A. Okay. So let's make this A, so our code is just similar. Okay, so we're gonna make another variable. We're gonna call it B. I'm gonna hide these here because we don't need it. All right, and then we're going to ask same thing again. Ask what is your second number, and then we're gonna set B then to that answer, just like so. So that's what we did here. What's your first number? What's your second number? All right. So now what we got to do is, remember, we had to kind of nest everything within one another. When we did that in the previous videos. If not, you can go ahead and check that out. All right. And so now we need to do is ask them, okay, what it is that they want to do. And so we're going to ask again, another ask command. And let's just keep it the same here. Let's just do the same thing here. Would you like to add, subtract, multiply, divide? We're going to keep the same exact lingo here as we rock and roll here. Okay. And we're going to set to this we called this, what do we call this in Python? We called this over here, we called it math. So let's just make the same variable so you can see for comparison purposes. There's math. All right. And we're going to set math to that answer. There we go. All right. So now here we rock and roll within all of these variables. Okay. So what's going to happen is we are going to put in here a if else block. All right. We've done this before when we've created this. So then we have to go to our operators here, and if, all right, we're going to use our math blocks now. If our math variable, okay, is equal, and let's say equal to add, then we are going to say, let's see, we're going to say what, right? We're going to add, we have to add two numbers. So we have to say those two things. So over here in our operators, we actually have this math command right in here, right? So say, and then we're going to put in there A plus B. So let's go ahead and run this just to make sure we're on the right track. So if we just do 2 again, and we do 5, and if I type in add, we should get 7. Oh, good. Whew, we're right. Okay, so now how do we do this if we have all these other commands, right? Like what else, how else do we do this if this isn't the way we want it to look, right? We only have one more option under this if else. Do you remember what we had to do? Yes, you're right. If you remember, we have to put another if else in here. Okay, and then we're going to have to then add in here now, in the same kind of thing that we just did up here. So we're going to go to operators, and we're going to do the subtract. Okay, so let's see, if our variable here of math equals sub for subtract. Okay, then we're going to say, oops, there we go. Say what? We're going to subtract here up in our variables for operators. We're going to say, and we're going to take A minus B. All right, but now we have to do another one of these if-else blocks, because otherwise we don't have enough chambers, right, or enough brackets to get through all this. So we have to do this all over again. So operator here, if, and then we go back to our variable, math is equal to multiply. Then we go to looks, and we're going to say on our operator, we have a multiply block right here. We're going to take our variables of a and b, a and b, and then finally one more. If else. Okay, and now we have here the same thing we've been doing. If our math equals divide, we're going to say operator, it's division 1, and then our variables a versus b. And then else, if we don't have any of those, we have to have that error message, right? So we're just going to put error just like we put. Alright, so here is our code. Let me minimize out of this. And you can see, well, we should probably make sure that it works first. So let's go ahead and run this. We already know that addition works. If I do 2 again and 5, and I type in subtract, okay, good. 2, 5, let's multiply 10, that's good. We do 2, 5, and we do divide, good. And then finally 2, 5, what did I type in last time? Monkey, error. So there's a comparison. What I want you to see here is, while this is helpful visually to help kids work through this, you can see how these if-else brackets, as you have to keep nesting them in, can easily become confusing for kids. Like, you can lose your train of thought if you don't know exactly what it is you're doing. So as you start to get past beyond just basic Scratch coding, you can start to see how this, all right, while very possible, and some people this makes a lot of sense. You might be looking at this going, this makes way more sense than this. But over time, you start to look at like, man, this is really straightforward. This is really simplistic in terms of like, you know, and even if we were to just eliminate all these brackets, right? Like, we got rid of all these spaces and actually kind of did all this correctly here, you know, man, we could go, it's not that much, right? This is, to me, you really have to think through, and it's very easy to get a mistake within here. Very possible, very doable, all right? But this is to show you how branching works in Python and in Scratch through just a mathematical model way here. And like I said, in Scratch, if I really was going to do a calculator, I probably wouldn't go this route. What I would do is just probably use broadcast signals, and I would have a plus sign, a minus sign, a multiply, a division. You click it, and away you go. But at least this way you can kind of see how the thinking breaks down between the two codes. All right, my friends, so take a look at this. How would you create a calculator in Scratch? How would you do it differently in Python? And how could you create something similar? The challenge here then is, could you create a program that kind of has 4 options doing this type of stuff, whether it's math or something with numbers or letters or whatever it might be? Give it a shot, and then, like as always, make sure you share, because sharing helps all of us get better. All right, my friends, as always, please remember to stay awesome.